When did you start?
Okay, so I am now recording the rest of today's session, and I recorded the two other sessions, and they're on a YouTube channel. So if you miss a class, or if you just want to re-watch a class, email Edwina. She has the link. Okay, is that okay, Edwina?
Yes.
Okay. So look how nice too the coffee filter is, you guys, because it's not a vertical line, right? It's so refreshing to have maybe a piece of paper or a pattern that's circular. I really like it. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Edwina? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, what I was going to ask you, what do we do with these? Do we cut out the
Yeah, let's cut them up and make a collage with them.
Okay.
Yep, let's just cut them up and make a collage. And remember, when you're cutting, you can do, you know, anything that you want. Like cutting, I always think is like the first step into the art making process. And a lot of times I'm just free cutting or cutting intuitively, right? I'm not thinking too much about it. And of course, guess what my coffee filter is going to turn into? I'm cutting a flower, and surprise, surprise. I didn't even really think about it, but then I sort of was like, oh yeah, what is this starting to look like? It's like, oh, yep. Sure enough, I made it into a flower. All right, so here's my coffee filter flower. And again, it's not specific. Also, notice all the nice little scraps of papers and stuff that I have here. I could include them. All right, I'm gonna think a little bit about color palette too. I'm gonna try to stay in these lighter colors. And I tend, when I make a collage too, to lay it out, right? Also, I'm a huge fan of tearing, right? So you don't always have to be cutting, right? So tearing is a legitimate way to sort of break stuff down and get some interesting shapes, right? And I need something contrasty. Also, because we are dealing with the theme of home, if anybody is interested in sort of collaging, you know, a neighborhood, or sort of feeling that structural need for maybe creating like a vantage point, so like maybe of your describing your street or your neighborhood, or maybe even just a house itself, right? Like a house is an interesting shape because it's a square with a rectangle on top, right? So that can always kind of be an interesting formula to follow, right? Because almost every square sort of looks like, we familiarize ourselves with squares because we see so many houses, and it's such a big part of our culture and civilization that everybody lives in a house, right? So a house, my house is actually just a rectangle. I don't know about anybody else, but my house is actually, doesn't even have like a pointy roof or anything. My house is just a rectangle. So maybe your house has a pointy roof. Maybe your house is more triangular. And all right, I'm good with my collage. Also remember, I'm gonna go ahead and use a plate, right? And my glue. So here's my glue and my foam brush, right? Here's my collage. I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm gonna go ahead and glue this down. And then I'm gonna put this aside for today. And in a few minutes, we'll get out our jelly plates, and we could kind of practice some basic jelly plate printing today and make some nice collage papers. And then next week, we're actually going to try something a little bit harder with the jelly plates, and we're going to do some photo transfers, which should be really fun. And I just use magazine pages for the transfers. You can use toner-based Xerox copies, but they're hard to come by. Maybe one of the senior centers has a nice Xerox machine you guys have access to, or maybe even a local library has a Xerox machine, and you could definitely try it. love this paper towel. I love this paper towel as a collage element. I am just so excited about how this feels with the glue and the texture it's providing me. I love those little dots, are really exciting. All right, I'm trying to remember how I laid my pieces on. Remember to do your background pieces first and then your foreground pieces on top of that. And if I were you, if you are going to add people and family members to these collages, I would still wait like 1 or 2 more weeks to be adding the people, because we're still dealing with what I'm calling background layers. And so these collages are going to get added to as we progress week by week in our class. So there will be maybe in the not next week, but maybe the week after that, we can really talk about how to add sort of human figures to the collages, right? So right now we're still dealing with just, I would even just say this is like atmosphere. I always consider this type of collaging like background atmosphere. It's kind of setting the mood and creating some texture. Oh my God, and I love that coffee filter with a tiny little bit of the ascendant grading and the brayer on it. So beautiful. I think I do also want to do 1 week where we're going to talk about tea toning, where we're actually going to maybe take some pictures or newspaper or letters or photos and dye them or stain them with tea, like tea that you drink, right? So that'll be really fun too. It kind of is a nice effect, I think, on paper, the way tea stains or staining. And don't forget, we have our walnut ink too. We got to remember our walnut ink. So many fun things to add to these collages. All right. So I'm just going to keep gluing this one on there. I'm almost done. And then we're going to transition to the jelly plate. And when we do, hang on, I have to give a kid his bottle. Hold on 1 second. I have to figure out where I want my flour. Hold on 1 second, you guys. I just have to give somebody a water bottle. Okay, so this is my coffee filter. This is my coffee filter. And look, just to make sure that I get all of the parts of my coffee filter glued down, I can sort of peel it up and then put it back down, right? So I really want to make sure that my whole filter gets glued down evenly. So I can peel it up from the back, right? And make sure that all the parts of the filter get glued on, okay? So very important in collaging that all of the paper gets securely fastened to the back, especially because we're going to add more layers to this, right? And if you get glue outside of where the paper is, that's fine. It will dry. It's funny, this coffee filter is kind of acting almost like a dried leaf. It's reminding me of like a dried leaf. And I've tried to collage with real flowers and stuff like that. It's very challenging, I think. They just tend to want to like crumple up, you know? I've never had any success in using like real organic like materials. I've used silk flowers and stuff, but I've never been able to get the dried leaves or flowers in the collage. All right, so I'm gonna put, this is like gonna represent like my house, right? So I could put it in the middle. I just feel like it's kind of speaking to me as my house, right? Okay, so I'm gonna do that. All right, so hopefully, oh, and I'm in the sun again. Hang on, I'm gonna keep moving over. I'm gonna keep moving over so that the sun isn't ruining my picture. All right, so I love all the colors of the artworks I have. And I guess for me, this is a lot of my stuff is fairly like light and airy. And I always recommend that people paint from light to dark you can always go darker. If you start out in the beginning of a collage or a painting too dark, it's hard to lighten it up, right? So my recommendation is to start with lighter colors and go darker later. Okay, so that's painting from light to dark. Okay, and I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna stop here with my collage. This is my collage from the Asemic Writing and Braille tool. Okay, and look, I put my, this is kind of like, this definitely looks like my house, and my little roof is gonna go sideways. All right, so if everybody's ready, put those collages to the side to dry. And I'm gonna do the demo on the jelly plate printing. So you might want to paint along with me. And I'm going to use newsprint and tissue paper today, okay? I don't know why I have Palmolive, except that definitely reminds me of home.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we're doing in these first couple weeks of this class are very atmospheric and sort of undefined. What I'm hoping is that maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, we will start to get more literal about our content. So that means that we can be more specific about how our artwork is referencing our home life, right? So right now we're kind of just using items from home and maybe using some words in our head. This is the jelly plate, right? So it comes between these 2 plastic pieces of plastic, right? Can everybody see? And you're gonna just peel the plastic off. And you don't need to save the plastic, but it's kind of neat. You can see that the jelly plate is a little bit sticky. This is the actual jelly plate, okay? And it is literally made of gelatin, okay? It's not an adhesive, so it won't stick to your table or anything like that. I'm gonna just pick some colors of craft paint that I like. And you probably have noticed that my color palette tends to be a little bit pinky or peachy. Again, it really doesn't matter what colors you use, just as long as you like them. And I gave you so many little bottles of craft paint that you could really pick and choose the colors that you like, right? So I'm just gonna pull out 3 or 4 colors here. If you wanted to pull out your paintbrushes today, you could definitely use your paintbrushes today if you wanted to on the jelly plate print pad. Okay, so I'm gonna just do a really basic concept so you get an idea of what the jelly plate does. And it is a beautiful, beautiful sort of loose and fun way to do some printmaking, right? Without a screen, without a lot of materials, all you need is the jelly plate and some craft paint, okay? So can everybody see the jelly plate okay? I'm gonna go ahead and just put a couple drops, right, of paint on the plate. And I'm just gonna start out with something really simple so you can see. I just did polka dots, right? Again, so I just did a couple drops of paint, and that's what it looks like on my jelly plate. So this is the newsprint pad that I gave you, the newsprint pad, and you can just tear off a sheet, and look at this. You can just literally lay the sheet down on top of the jelly plate and rub it with your hand, right? And I just left the dots as dots, right? I didn't do anything to them. And then look, I'm gonna lift it up, and I just basically made a really nice polka dotted pattern, okay? So it's pretty much 1-to-1. Whatever you see on the jelly plate, you're gonna see on your paper. Notice too that I have a lot of paint still on my jelly plate. I'm just gonna leave that there. I'm just gonna leave it there. And what I love the most about the jelly plate, and you could kind of refer this a little bit to like your house or your home, is that the experiences of living in the house or living at home are layered, right? There's years and years of sort of people and occasions and rituals and actions and relationships, things that happen at home, right? That get layered into sort of your life there or life in general at home, right? So I always think it's nice. That's why I like collage, right? So it's a bunch of layers about my experience. So here I put a couple drops of paint on the jelly plate. I'm going to use the brayer and I'm going to blend this time. Does everybody see how I'm blending? Right? And a lot of times what happens when you blend the jelly plate is you're going to mix all those colors together to become one color, right? So I made like kind of an orange. Also notice I have extra paint on my brayer. So what do you think I could do with that? Could I put it on my collage? Absolutely. Yeah. Could I put it on my newsprint pad? So it's a good idea to keep an extra piece of paper or pad, the newsprint pad, next to your jelly plate so that as you're using the brayer, you can use the runoff of the paint to continue making like pretty colors for collage papers, you know, pretty textures that you can use at another time. So here I made a nice even coat on my jelly plate. And I could do a solid, let's just do a solid. Look how pretty that color is. It's like such a nice, like almost salmony orange. I'm gonna use that same piece of paper that I used for the polka dots, and I'm just gonna do like an orange square, right? And this is gonna be a background. So the really nice thing about jelly plate printing is that I can print multiple times on the same piece of paper. So look, I literally just transferred that and made a solid, okay? So I've got polka dots on one side and a solid color on the other side. I'm gonna put that away. And I'm gonna do something in a light color. I'm gonna do white, and I'm gonna put that on the plate. I clean the brayer off. I don't need to wash the brayer, right? Because I wiped paint off, right? On the newsprint, you don't have to wash, right? There's no water needed, right? So that's kind of nice. It's nice to think like that you don't need water in between these layers. You just can clean stuff by actually just using it. Okay, so let's go back to sort of what we did last week. And I'm gonna use, I made a nice clear paint layer on my jelly plate pad. I used my brayer a little bit. Look, I used the brayer a little bit on this one piece of paper that I had here. I blended a little bit of the beige. I'm gonna use the end of this paintbrush and I'm actually just gonna write in a writing something, a little note about today, right? This is my little personal note about today. And it's cool because the jelly plate is like literally like a pillow. It's so squishy and soft. You could write with anything. You could write with your fingernail, right? You can make any type of marks. Don't dig into the jelly plate. Like you don't want to gouge it, but you just gotta like mark it gently. Okay, so here is my mark making, right? That's my little asemic note for today. And I'm gonna put it right on top of the orange, right? So let's see what that looks like. It's gonna be like a sandwich, right? I'm gonna sandwich the white on top of the orange and I'm gonna pull it up and see what happens, right? Oh, look at that. That looks so cool. So that's like a double whammy, right? So I had the orange layer underneath and then I did the asemic writing in the white and I laid it over the orange. And where I had the writing becomes a window, right? Literally a window into the orange. And I don't know about you guys, but I see a frog. Do you guys see a frog? You guys see the frog?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like a frog or like a chameleon. And honestly, like, I cannot tell you how many reptiles my kids had when they were little. And we were always like afraid that we were gonna lose the reptiles like in the house. Right? That they were gonna get out of the cage and we were gonna lose them. All right, so this is what my jelly plate print pad looks like now. And I don't need to wash it or anything. I'm gonna make sure my brayer is clean and I'm gonna switch colors. So I'm gonna use some purple and I'm gonna put the purple on the jelly plate pad, right, like this. I'm gonna use my brayer and I'm gonna spread the purple out, right? And I'm gonna go over the writing, which is gonna cover it up. And I could put another color on the purple. I could do even like red dots on the purple, right? And I can use my paintbrush and I can blend the dots, right? If I wanted to, just for fun. And then I'm gonna get another piece of paper. Now this time, I'm not gonna use the newsprint. This time I'm gonna try some tissue paper, right? So this could be something that you might have at home. Something else that you might have at home could be newspaper or pattern making paper, right? I also can try the coffee filter. So here's the coffee filter again. And I'm gonna lay it on top of the jelly plate pad. And the coffee filter wants to bend, right? Because it's like a half a circle. So let's see what happens. I'm gonna rub it in here and then I pull it off. And it made, like, it kind of made a little bit of a cool design. And I could put that to the side as a collage. This is the tissue paper. I love tissue paper in general for collages. I use it all the time. I like it because it's textural and it's super adhesive. It sticks to the jelly plate really nicely and pulls up a lot of paint. So let's see how this turns out. Okay. Oh, so what happened here is I didn't get a lot of printmaking, right? I didn't get a lot, and probably because I waited too long. So I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna put that to the side and I'm just gonna redo the purple one. Okay, I'm just gonna redo it. So again, like anything that you're thinking about while you're working in these mediums that connect you to your topic of home, maybe you're even just going in like colors, you know.
Leanne.
Yeah.
I have a question on the gel, the paint that you have on there already. How do are you wiping it off?
No, it really, no, once you make a print, you don't need to wipe it off. You don't need to clean it or anything. That's a great question. If you want it,
just put another color on there.
Yeah, because basically it just gets sucked up. Like here, oh, look how beautiful. And look, wait, this is so cool. So look, it's like memory. Now, can you guys see? It's very faint, but basically the asemic writing that I did like 3 or 4 prints ago is kind of showing up in this print, right? So this was a long time ago, but it has a lot of memory. And so what I love about the jelly plate is the idea that it's remembering what I did like 3 or 4 prints ago. And then look, Edwina, that's pretty much, that's like kind of clean. And all I did was put the tissue paper on it and pull it up. Now, you can clean your jelly plate with soap and water. You can wash it and you can put it, you know, in the sink, wash it with soap and water, and then lay it somewhere to dry. You can also clean it with like a baby wipe or like a moist towelette, like a, you know, like something you would use to wipe a baby's from, or something that a moist wipe or a moist, you know, moisture wipe from the so yeah, baby's from. So you can wipe them with any type of moist towel too. Notice I don't want to put, that's why I love these craft bottles and for the jelly plate printing, because you don't want to put too much paint on the surface, right? You want just the right amount of paint on here. So, and then you want to, you know, if you want it to blend, like you want to mix the paint colors, you can use the brayer. You can also just use it as dots. You could also use your paintbrush, right? So you can use your paintbrush to move the paint around, right? And then I use the round end of the paintbrush if I want to do a semic writing. I also was demonstrating, like you could write, here's a piece of cardboard, right? This is just a piece of cardboard. And I just can make any type of mark making or drawing in the jelly plate. And then if I lay the paper down, I'm going to get a positive and negative sort of relief of that drawing. So here's that. And a lot of times, like I'm just looking for color and texture and mark making. I'm looking sort of for interesting things. I'm not necessarily trying to make something literal. Like, I'm sorry, I have to move again. I have to move, the sun keeps chasing me. But that was a great question, Edwina. You do not have to wash the jelly plate while you're working. You can just simply continue to work. And then the idea is very similar to what we did last week, where we're just creating materials like this one or this one that we can use in our collages. So technically, like something like this, I might let it dry, which it's gonna dry pretty quickly. And now I might do another layer of polka dots, right? Because I did polka dots, I did orange, and I did white. So I might introduce another color. I could introduce red or yellow or blue. And I'm gonna do something else with the jelly plate. So here's the jelly plate. I have all this tissue paper here. You can use any colored paper too. You don't always have to be working on white paper. You can try different, if you have different colored tissue paper. Also, if you have magazines, right? Next week, we're gonna use a lot, we're gonna do a lot with magazines. So if you have a house filled with magazines, that is gonna be really fun. We're going to try to transfer them, and we're also going to print on them.
I'm loving this jelly plate.
I love the jelly plate. So COVID brought a lot of hardship, you know, for a lot of people, but it definitely, it gave me the jelly plate. I met the jelly plate. I taught myself how to jelly plate print during COVID, and I actually taught it online. I was really happy. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's just so abstract, right? And interesting. And the layering, I love the idea of being able to sort of like layer on top of layers, right? So here's some of my turquoise polka dots on top of my other art form. And honestly, I have to say that from my experience with jelly plate printing, the ones that get the best are the ones that have been printed on like maybe anywhere from 4 or 5 times that sort of same piece of paper, right? So this is the one I originally started out with the polka dots, but I just think it's getting better and better sort of with each layer that I put on there. So don't be like, you know, if the first print from the plate is not that interesting, don't stop, just keep reusing those same papers. And look, I can even go back to the other papers that I made last week, right? With the asemic writing, and I can introduce them to the jelly plate, right? So I love this idea of materials and art styles sort of weaving together and being used over and over again, which also sort of reminds me of how we treat our homes and our houses, right? Like they're there for us to come and go. They're there for us to layer over. They're there for a long time, right? There's all these sort of metaphors in this practice that remind me of my home and my life at my home, right? My memories, my experiences. All right, hold on, I have to go close my door again. Wow, I love the way this one turned out, right? So it's nice too to play around with color props and changes. Sorry, I just had to go close my door. All right. So, and going back and forth between blending colors and drawing a little bit in the jelly plate, super fun, right? Other things that you can do with the jelly plate, if you have them around the house, you can use stampers. Does anybody have stampers at their house?
Yes. Yes.
Right, I know a lot of people probably like, these are just block stamps, right? So this one is like just a mandala symbol. This one, I can't even tell what it is, but it might be interesting. So if you want to try a stamper, take the jelly pad, right? Put the paint on it. I'm trying to make like a nice color here. I'm trying to make like a nice light blue. And you can tell when the paint is getting a little bit maybe too dry. If you can see the jelly plate coming through the paint, that means that it's a little bit too dry. So just add some more paint. Don't add water, but just add a little bit more paint. And then go ahead and rub it out. And then the stamper, you're just gonna put it right onto the plate like this, right? And again, it's gonna do that same thing that we talked about earlier, which is gonna give you that positive and negative effect of where there's paint and where there isn't paint, right? So then we're gonna just peel it up. Oh my God, that looks so beautiful. Look at that. Do you guys see the stamper?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, look at that. So now this piece, right, was the one that I started originally, and now I really like it, right? Because it has a lot of energy and variety, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of different sort of methods and experiences on the same paper. So this took how many prints? Does anybody remember how many times I did this? Remember, I did just the polka dots, then I did the solid, right? I think I did the solid orange here too. Oh, this was the brayer. Remember, that was the brayer. This was the print. This was the asemic writing. This was the, so I'm talking, this must have been at least 6 or 7 prints on the same paper made this one interesting, right? Whereas this one only has 1. So I need to continue on kind of and repeat some of these methods that I liked. So I like those blue polka dots. I could do another color of polka dots, right? I can put it right on top or next to purple, right? And then we know we like the stamper. So let's like work our way up to the stamp. Oh, look at that. That looks nice. And you just kind of got to go with your, you got to kind of go with your head about the colors. Like there's no right and wrong here. It's a color palette.
Go ahead.
You could also try to print on the paper towels like we used like the last time, right? You could also try to print on the coffee filters, or I was gonna suggest pattern, like dress patterns. Does anybody sew? You might have some vintage or some older McCall sewing patterns with that nice blue tissue paper around. That could be really nice. And you could definitely put that right on the jelly plate, right? Look how pretty this color is. It's like that beautiful blue and purple together.
That's pretty.
No, it's just, I love mixing these craft paints. It's so pretty. And I'm gonna do a solid, just because I like the solid, and I'm not gonna do anything, I'm gonna do a solid, right? And I didn't do any asemic writing or anything. So there's just my solid. And then notice too, if I wanna do the writing, am I gonna do a lighter color or a darker color to do the writing? I'm gonna put this over the darker color, so I'm gonna do a lighter color, right? So it's nice to have sort of contrasty colors when you layer them on top of each other. Okay. All right, I think I'm gonna kind of wrap it up for today. I'm gonna do one more asemic writing demo on a lighter color And I'm just gonna warm this color up a drop by adding a little bit of red to it, right? But you can see how fun it is to, like, look how beautiful this is. And again, like, just sometimes mixing the colors, like this is like a rosy, lovey, Valentine-y kind of abstraction. And then I'm gonna use that, I like that piece of cardboard I was using, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do like a doodly asemic writing. It's gonna say, it says, I love you. It just says, I love you, right? I love you. All right. And I'm gonna go ahead and put it over the purple. So let's see how that looks. My little Valentine. This is my little asemic Valentine today. My secret love letter. I don't know who I'm gonna give it to, but, oh, and there it is. It's not that contrasty. It's not that contrasty, but it's still, you can see it, right? And then yeah, it's pretty. And I can do it on white to see if I can see it on white. And again, I could also try it on a piece of darker paper, which might be interesting too, to see if it shows up darker. And look, this is what it looks like even after I did it twice, right? It still kind of has like a ghost. Oh, that's another thing about our houses, right? Does anybody's house have a ghost in it? So it's kind of like a ghost image, right? All right, any questions about basic jelly plate printing? And I hope that you guys really love the jelly plate. It is truly one of my favorite. I think it's just a beautiful, beautiful tool and super, super fun to play with. It's kind of like hard to stop once you start.
It is.
It is really hard to stop. Hard to stop. All right, any questions that I can maybe help you with so you can play with this jelly plate printing this week? Yes.
The only thing I want to know is where are you expecting us to be by class next week?
I'm not expecting you to be anywhere except in class and hanging out. I just expect you to be practicing. I'd really like to see you like learn a technique. And that's why I gave you that big fat pad of newsprint so that you could just be playing. And literally, like, I'd love to just see you making stuff, right? And then if you feel like today, we started out, we made a little collage. Next week, we're gonna focus on like imagery, magazine imagery, and Xerox copies of people, right? Because I feel like people might wanna add, like when you think about home and your home life, you might wanna personalize it. So you can use found object photos to represent people in your life, or you can use photos of those people in your work. Sometimes I just use a generic girl from a magazine, like a model, to sort of represent something that I'm actually thinking about for myself. Does that make sense? So it doesn't have to be you or your family members. It could be other people that could be representing people in your art if you want people. If you want your work to stay very mysterious and abstract, that's not going to lessen the content or importance of the work. It doesn't have to have the literacy. So all I really want you to do is enjoy these lessons, play along, and try stuff at home. And then, you know, every week we're going to kind of learn a new technique, and all of these papers can go into your collages. That's all I'm asking, right? I mean, I would say that this one was definitely the most successful, but again, like I could cut this up, shred it, right? Or combine it with like another one, right? Or add it to a collage, yeah.
Yeah, I was just confused at the end of last time. That's why I asked about this time.
You were confused at the end of last time?
Yeah.
I'm teaching you all of the sort of techniques that I use in my studio. These pieces go into all of my collage work. So
Okay,
where and how is really up to you. I mean, I could show you how and where I use them, but I'm just trying to introduce, you know, tissue paper, paper towels, coffee filters, found objects, paint, drawing, paint, you know, like just sort of all of these sort of mediums that I like to use in the collages.
We can't
Well, I
hear
never
you.
heard of a jelly plate before, so I learned something right now.
I love this thing. Okay, so and again, to clean this
Thank
up,
you.
if you don't have accessibility to a sink, you could just spray a little bit of a cleaning solution on a paper towel and wipe it off. Technically, you don't have to clean it. I mean, technically, it'll just keep working and you can just keep layering it and it'll just keep working. There is a length, like a life length, and there are people that like to keep their jelly plates alive for a long time. So caring for them, washing them after use, not drying them out. You can also recondition them with mineral oil, but basically it should say soft and flexible and usable really no matter what you do to it. So,
Well, I mean, can you turn it on the other side?
no, it really has like one side up. I think you can tell one side is stickier, one side is smoother. I use the sticky side.
The other side is smoother, right?
Yeah, there's a front and a back. This is the back. This is the
Oh.
front. Yep.
I did it right.
Yep.
So in other words, if I want to clean some of this off, how would I clean some of this paint off?
You could use a wipe, a sanitizing wipe. You can use a Clorox wipe. You can use a toilet wipe, a baby wipe. You can also use a moist paper towel, and you can literally wash it in the sink with like a sponge.
Okay.
So there's a wide range, and remember too, this paint is very water soluble and should just you could spray it with a spray gun and wipe it clean with a paper towel. Pretty simple. Okay. So next week, we're going to work with the jelly plate again, and we're going to try some photo transfers. My favorite material for that is Vogue magazine. Is this, right? So I use Vogue because the pictures are the right material. They lift very nicely.
You can do that in the app.
But you can we could try other magazines, or we could actually print on magazines. So we're just going to introduce some more text and maybe figurative imagery next week. Okay?
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, great job, everybody.
All right.
Okay, I hope you had fun. I'll see you guys next week. Happy
Oh,
Valentine's
all right.
Day. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.